You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you. Pardon the way that I stare. There's nothing else to compare. The sight of you leaves me weak. There are no words left to speak. But if you feel like I feel, please let me know that it's real. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you. Too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you. I love you, baby, and if it's quite alright, I need you, baby, to on the lonely night. I love you, baby. Trust in me when I sounds funny, but I just can't stand the pain. Girl, I'm leaving you tomorrow. Seems to me, girl, you know I've done all I can. You see, I begged, stole, and I borrowed. Yeah. Why I'm easy. I'm easy like Sunday morning. That's why I'm easy. I'm easy like Sunday morning. Put chains on me. Yeah. I've paid my dues to make it. Everybody wants me to be what they want me to be. I'm not happy when I try to fake it. No. That's why I'm easy. I'm easy like sun. I'm easy like Sunday morning. Yeah. That's why I'm easy. I'm easy like Sunday morning. Whoa. 'Cause I'm easy. Easy like Sunday morning. Yeah. 'Cause I'm easy. Easy like Sunday morning. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. I needed the shelter of someone's arms. There you were. I needed someone to understand my ups and downs. There you were. With sweet love and devotion, deeply touching my emotion. I want to stop and thank you, baby. I want to stop and thank you, baby. Yes, I do. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Feels so fine. How sweet it is to be loved by you. I close my eyes at night, wondering where would I be without you in my life. Everything I did was just a bore. Everywhere I went, it seems I'd been there before. But you brighten up for me all of my days. With a love so sweet in so many ways. I wanna stop and thank you, baby. I just wanna stop and thank you, baby. Oh, yes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. It's just like sugar sometimes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Whoa, yeah. You were better to me than I was to myself. For me, there's you, and there ain't nobody else. I wanna stop and thank you, baby. I just wanna stop and thank you, baby. Oh, yes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Oh, now, how sweet it is to be loved by you. It's like jelly, baby. Oh, yeah. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Just like honey to the bee, baby. Yeah, now. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. I see the bad moon rising sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? And ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Guess I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Karen, she's a silver sun. You best walk her away and watch it shining. Watch her watch the morning come. A silver tear appearing now. I'm crying, ain't I? Gone to Carolina in my mind. There ain't no doubt in no one's mind that love's the finest thing around. Whisper something soft and kind. And hey babe, the sky's on fire. I'm dying, ain't I? I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. In my mind, I'm gone to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Well, dark and silent late last night, I think I might have heard the highway calling. Geese in flight and dogs that bite. The signs that might be omens say I'm going, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. With a holy host of others standing around me, still I'm on the dark side of the moon. And it seems like it goes on like this forever. You must forgive me if I'm up and gone to Carolina in my mind. In my mind, I'm gone to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Gone to Carolina in my mind. And I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Gone to Carolina in my mind. Gone, I'm gone. Say nice things about me, 'cause I'm gone, solid gone. Got to carry on without me. I'm gone.
Now here you go again. You say you want your freedom. Well, who am I to keep you down? It's only right that you should play the way you feel it. But listen carefully to the sound of your loneliness, like a heartbeat drives you mad. In the stillness of memories, what you had and what you lost, and what you had and what you lost. Oh, thunder only happens when it's raining.
World Trade Center on September 11th is being carried into the stadium. Utah's Native American leaders welcome the athletes of the Olympic Winter Games.
La Grèce,
Austria,
les Bermudes,
Canada,
la République populaire de Chine,
the Czech Republic,
Fidji,
France,
l'Allemagne, la Grande-Bretagne,
Iceland, Italy,
le Japon,
Korea, Netherlands, Norway,
la Suisse, les États-Unis d'Amérique.
the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, the Olympic flag is now entering the stadium. The flag bearers represent the 5 continents of the Olympic rings and the 3 pillars of the Olympic movement: sport, culture, and environment.
Mesdames et messieurs, la flamme olympique s'approche maintenant du stade.
Ladies and gentlemen, the flame is entering the stadium, carried by Dorothy Hamill and Dick Button, Peggy Fleming and Scott Hamilton, Phil Mayer and Bill Johnson, Bonnie Blair and Dan Jansen, Jim Shea and his son Jimmy Shea, Cammie Granato and Peekaboo Street, the 1980 United States gold medal ice hockey team,
the opening of the 19th Olympic Winter Games.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We appreciate you being here for Envision Utah's Spring Breakfast. We hope you enjoyed the time of networking, meeting new friends, visiting with old friends. My name is Ty McCutcheon. I have the pleasure of serving as chair of Envision Utah. Today is a real example of the heart of what Envision Utah is all about. which is bringing Utahns together to think about big issues, to think about our future, to think about how we want to build that future together and shape our community. On your tables are QR codes. You can access the program for today. Also, if you have an opportunity to take a look at the agenda, there's printed copies. We have some great speakers. You already got to see a wonderful video. As I looked out over Rice Eccles this morning, I thought to myself, wow, how cool is it that a couple decades ago we hosted the world here, and in a very short amount of time we're going to do it again, and how unique it is for many of us to have the opportunity to see the games in our community twice in a lifetime. And it's just such a special thing. Our morning would not be possible without the generosity of our sponsors, and so I want to thank them. First, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Foundation. Thank you so much for your support. Ancestry, Jacobson, Larry H. Miller Real Estate, Zions Bank, Third Cadence, Convergence, and of course, the George S. and Dolores Dory Eccles Foundation. As we think about our program today, we have noted leaders from our state at the time of the 2002 games. Governor Leavitt, thank you for being with us. And of course, Brad Wilson, who's the CEO of the 2034 Salt Lake City, Utah Olympic Committee. Your leadership and vision to what we're embarking on together is so important, and we're excited to be with you to hear your perspective and how, as a community, we can come together to support your goals for our Olympic Games. But kick things off today, I want to introduce Jason Brown, who's our interim CEO. And again, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We appreciate you taking time to come this morning. Now, there's a lot that has been said about the economic misfortunes of my generation, the millennial generation. Even from the Envision Utah stage, we've had people come and talk about the rising costs of housing and how that outpaced wage growth, or the student loan or student debt, the levels of student debt that many of the millennials are in, and also things like even the cost of being a parent nowadays and the increasing costs. But I wanted to talk about something that I think is a little bit of an overlooked piece of being a millennial, especially a millennial in Utah, and really a very small, specific cohort of millennials about my age, or maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger. We had a pretty great childhood growing up, and in some ways it makes me even feel like, in some ways, we are maybe the luckiest of generations. Let me make the case to you for just a few minutes about that. I was in 4th grade when the first Star Wars prequel came out. And to be a 4th grader, when your taste in movies is not super discerning, and when you're still really comfortable playing pretend that you're a Jedi or that you're a Sith apprentice with a double lightsaber, there was nothing that could be cooler than that. Another example, I was just old enough to really start to care about sports and to be a fan of a sports team the year that John Stockton sent the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals. I mean, what? I know, right? Yeah. What an introduction to the world of professional sports that was. You couldn't really ask for anything better than that. I mean, 28 years later, you could ask for a little bit more. I mean, not even like better, like the same would be really cool. Another generational defining experience that I had growing up. Me and my generation grew up with Harry Potter, which was a pretty big deal. And when I say we grew up with Harry Potter, I don't mean that we grew up reading Harry Potter. My teacher started reading the first Harry Potter book to my class when I was 11 years old. Harry Potter was 11 years old in that book. Later, a few books later, I was 16 years old, and my friends and I waited outside of Frost Books to go and purchase the 6th Harry Potter book at midnight, and then we went and read it on the first chapter on the front lawn together. And Harry Potter was 16 as well in those books, so we really did grow up with Harry Potter. And then, of course, we were kids when Utah was getting ready for the Olympics. Now, some of you are thinking right now, well, I'm just saying this as part of a bit. This is obviously my job to talk about the Olympics at this event. But if I was lighthearted about those first few things I mentioned, I'm serious about this one. I wish I could look every one of you in the eyes and tell you what it felt like to be a kid growing up knowing that your hometown, my hometown, was becoming the coolest place in the world. Because that's what it felt like. It felt like Utah was becoming the coolest place in the world. I knew that something big was happening. I don't remember the first time I came to a game here at Rice-Eccles Stadium, but I do remember that it was a big deal to be coming here. It was something to be coming here. In fact, when I was young, at one game, I had a few dollars that I felt like I really needed to spend on some sort of souvenir for from being at the game, and I went to the shop and I bought a T-shirt that had the new and improved Rice-Eccles Stadium screen printed on that T-shirt. I don't remember the first time that I rode tracks, but I remember talking with my friends about, I remember talking with my friends about tracks, and we were comparing who had ridden tracks, and who had ridden it the longest, and who had ridden it the most times, because that was an experience to be a part of that, to ride tracks. And I wonder who here remembers the first time that you went to the Gateway Mall. My family would usually come downtown at Christmas time to see the lights on Temple Square, and one year we added the Gateway, the brand new Gateway, to our field trip because we wanted to experience it. We weren't even there for the shopping, but it was really kind of a symbol of what was happening. There were just really exciting things going on. And one more thing, to really sort of to drive my point here. This is an obscure one, for sure. But for some reason, etched into my memory is a postcard that my parents received that explained the I-15 Spaghetti Bowl interchange. Now, I couldn't drive. I didn't really know what I-15 was, or I-80, or I-215, but for some reason, that stood out to me as something, as a symbol that things were happening, things were changing. It was a very, very exciting time to be a kid. Now, in case my trip down memory lane hasn't quite made my point, I want to clearly state why we're talking about all of this. The build-up to 2002 was an era of transformation in Utah, and I believe that we have an era of transformation ahead of us. We're living in the world that we built ahead of 2002, and we think that there's things that we can build leading up to 2034 as well. In a few minutes, you're going to hear Brad Wilson talk about some of the preparations for 2034. And you're going to be really impressed with all the thinking that's gone into it and all the thinking that is happening around it right now. But when we met with Brad a few weeks ago, he said exactly what we were thinking, that he wanted people to leave today feeling, if not a sense of pressure, at least a sense of opportunity, that there was something big that we could all do together in preparation for the games. So a few weeks ago, we had a meeting with our board of directors, and I presented a bit of a reorientation to Envision Utah, and I told everyone that I like to think of Envision Utah not as much as an organization, but as a big group project. Envision Utah is at its best when we are a group of people coming together deciding that we want to control our own destiny, and so then we work together to figure out what that destiny is, and then to make a plan to make it happen. And so I want to propose that we all join this group project together, and that one of the pieces of this group project is thinking about and figuring out what we want Utah to be in 2034. And I have a few ideas of where we can start. At Envision Utah, we have a few key priorities we're focused on. Housing, transportation, water, education, disaster resilience, and there are some other areas, maybe like energy, that we ought to be exploring and getting into more. And I want to just touch on a couple projects that we have in these areas. In a few short months, we'll have completed a report for the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, looking at the housing capacity that we have in Utah, based on what land we have available to build on, based on the water that we have available, based on sewer constraints that we have, and based on what the market might demand or support. And one of my favorite parts is what the market might support in terms of changing over commercial areas or other areas. Imagine what we can do as our group project. Imagine what we can do with that analysis, when we have a sense of what our capacity is for new housing, for new growth. I think that'll be something really exciting for all of us. As a companion piece, by the end of the year, we're going to have what we're thinking of as rules of thumb. This is going to be some really rigorous data-backed principles that we can rely on when we're thinking about building new housing. So we can say, oh, well, this kind of housing typically has this effect on water use, and this effect on crime rates, and this effect on congestion and other things like that. When it comes to education, we have some big questions we need to ask. Like, what are the jobs of the next decade demand of our education systems? Or what does society, the society we want to build, demand of our education systems? We're working on a project to make sure that we have in place a clear and guiding vision for higher education in Utah. And in a couple months again, we'll have some preliminary data that will be a part of that. You're not going to want to miss that. There's going to be some exciting stuff there. There's so much going on at Envision Utah right now. I wish you could be in our staff meetings every week to talk about the early learning work that we do. It seems almost every week we have some really new exciting development or partner that's working on that. We have a great project in Utah County that's fun and exciting, and we're happy about that going on. But my dream, I'll close with this. My dream is that 10 years from now, after the Olympics, we've hosted the world, they've come and they've seen everything that's going on, and then all of us, for the next few years, are really, really busy because we're hosting delegations from around the country and from around the world of people who came, they got to know Utah a little bit, and they want to know how we did what we did. They'll come and they'll ask, how did we, in a rapidly growing state, manage to keep housing within reach of Utah families? How did we, in a desert, manage to harness our water so efficiently and so effectively? How did we manage to become the best educated state in the country? How did we become so resilient to a major earthquake? And in this stream, people in this room who are answering these questions are also pointing to Envision Utah and saying, you know what, Envision Utah brought us together as a big group project, and we worked together to figure out how to do all of these things. And then since it's my dream, another part of it is that people point to the beautiful new Envision Utah building that's been built downtown. And they say, oh, you should go visit them there. But we'll talk about that part of the dream another day. When the Olympics come, I think it's going to be a great time. I'm really excited for the games themselves. But what I really hope we don't miss is this opportunity in front of us, this excuse, this chance and reason to make Utah to make Utah everything that we really hope that Utah can be. So once again, I want to thank everyone for being here, and I want to thank you for being part of the big group project that is Envision Utah. And so it's my job now to also tee up the rest of the conversation. In just a moment, we're going to have the inimitable Natalie Gochnour take the stage. Natalie is, of course, the director of the Gardner Policy Institute and an associate dean of the David Eccles School of Business here at the University of Utah. She was an advisor to Governor Leavitt and has done so much else to shape Utah and policy circles in Utah and so much of what Utah is. We're privileged to have her as a vice chair of Envision Utah's board of directors. And she will be our moderator and our guide for the rest of the discussion. To really make sure that we're feeling it, we have a quick video, I think it's 90 seconds or so, that we're going to watch, and then we'll hand the time over to Natalie to introduce our panel. So thank you very much.
In Utah, there's a spirit that's been growing for the past 2 decades. You can see it in our kids who carve through childhood on skis and skates. You can feel it in the hearts of world-class athletes from over 30 countries that train here. You can hear it in the passionate cheers of fans who fill the very same hallowed venues that hosted the 2002 Games. Because the Olympic and Paralympic Games left us with more than just venues and memories. The Games reshaped our culture, creating a proud tradition of hosting international competitions. and sparking programs that teach the value of sport and teamwork to thousands of kids every year. This legacy sets the stage for an even brighter future when the games return. Because Salt Lake is now, and will forever be, an Olympic city. It's part of our everyday life, woven into the fabric of every Utahn. And we can't wait to open our home to the world once more and say, welcome back.
That's a beautiful message. I love that message. Welcome home. And I am so proud to be a part of Team Utah, and I know all of you are. And I get to lead this discussion today about what we're calling Utah's gold medal moment. We have the opportunity between now and 2034 and beyond to share with this state and the world the spirit of Olympism. And we have the two best guests this morning to help us do that. And so I'm going to invite Governor Leavitt and Brad Wilson to join me on stage, and I'll give them a little introduction, and then we'll jump into a panel discussion. Our former governor, Mike Leavitt, joins us. Governor Leavitt helped lead what Dick Ebersol called the most successful Olympic Games, winter or summer, ever. Mike Leavitt has many other accomplishments, including service to our country as EPA Administrator, as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. He also co-founded Western Governors University. And on a personal note, I know Mike Leavitt to be a visionary leader, devoted statesperson, and a mentor to so many of today's leaders. I hope he'll do some mentorship for us today. Let's welcome Governor Leavitt. The former Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson, also joins us. He's the CEO of Salt Lake City, Utah 2034 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Served in the Utah legislature from 2011 to 2023, and he's still standing, going strong. He has led out on so many fronts. I don't even know how to enumerate them as someone who's sort of a Capitol Hill watcher and what he's done, but I'll highlight his stewardship of the Great Salt Lake as one of his most recent accomplishments. And on a personal note, I know Brad to be one of the best strategic minds in our state and someone who sees the future about as well as anybody. So let's welcome Brad Wilson. All right. I worked with Governor Leavitt for like 18 years, so I call him Gov. So if that slips in here and I don't call him Governor Leavitt or Mike and I say, hey, Gov, that's what's going on. So Gov, thank you. Start with you. We want to set the stage, this journey that we're on, and I just want you to opine for a minute about some of the planning that was occurring in this state in 6-7 years before 2002, knowing that we're in the 8-9 year time frame now. What was going on?
So it's important to recognize that we're talking now about 30 years ago, how quickly 30 years go. It's how important it is actually to be thinking now about the next 30 years. So your question, I think, is highly significant. Given that, why don't we think about for a moment what the objectives were then? They were fairly straightforward. One was we saw an opportunity for the bid actually to be part of the creation of Utah as a winter sport capital. Ski industry was just developing really at that point in time, and we knew this could put it even further into the consciousness. The second was to create an international brand for Utah. The truth is, you'd travel around the world and people did not know where Utah was. You had to explain it as, well, it's a little bit north of Las Vegas and it's inland from Los Angeles. They didn't know. That has changed. And in large measure, I think it's been because we became an Olympic state, an Olympic city, and people know it. And that was an important part of a bigger objective, which was to make Utah a technology capital. And we knew that in order for us to do so, we had to develop a reoccurring brand. And then finally, we needed a catalyst to just get a lot of other things done. It's that thank heaven for the last minute. A lot of things wouldn't get done without it. Well, you look back on what occurred, and the real benefit of those games happened in the 7 years before the games. Now, there was benefit that we realized and enjoyed afterward, but a lot of the value creation occurred using the Olympics as a catalyst. And the final thing I'll say is there's some talk, I think, in the Olympic community about whether they should make Olympics reoccurring, that there's a pattern as to where they are held. I think you can just look at the competence and the sense of certainty that we have today in forming the games and compare it to what was happening in the 1990s when we were feeling our way. We were working to create an Olympic competency set. We were working to create an Olympic culture. We were working to establish facilities. All of those things did not exist, and they exist now, and they make a lot of difference. And so I think that it's just our experience demonstrates, I think, ultimately the value of that. And I'll pause.
Yeah, okay, those are some big things. Brad, I remember being an analyst in the governor's office before the 2002 games, and the Office of Tourism did some surveying about Utah's image. And it was in Europe, and they were asking people, top of mind, what do you think of when you think of Utah? And the two big things that popped, one was Utah Beach. We're in Europe, that's a Normandy beach. And the other one was John Wayne. Don't know exactly that connection there. But I want to ask, still on this journey, Governor Leavitt points out that we wanted to create this brand for our state. We wanted to become a Utah winter sports capital. We wanted to become a technology capital. Boy, it's happened. And so the bar is really high. You stepped into a really tricky situation because the state really delivered in 2002, and it's paid dividends to us now. So tell us a little bit about what your vision is for what 2034 can mean to this state.
Yeah. Well, thanks for just, with that question alone, raising my anxiety level. But before I answer your question, I just want to say a couple of things. As a policymaker, a lawmaker, Speaker of the House, I want to thank Envision Utah. The work that this organization has done, which this man to my right helped launch Envision Utah, has really made an impact on this state. So thank you for your work, all of you.
Give it a hand.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you all for being here today. And I apologize to you that anyway, hi over there. So last comment before I begin. I started to recognize some patterns when I was Speaker of the House. And actually before I was Speaker. And there was a pattern of some really significant and strategic decisions that were made in this state that changed its trajectory in a really positive way forever. And there was a common denominator, and I'll just tell you all what it is. It's Mike Leavitt. And it's true. If you go back and look at some of the most important decisions that were made in this state 25 or so years ago, this man, he's one of those people who sees a door that needs to have someone go through it before the door is even built. And so we're just lucky to have him here today and to learn from his experience. But yeah, well, it's true. It's absolutely true. So, we saw in that video some amazing Olympic moments. We saw some before the event started, but how many of you in here, just by show of hands, were able to participate in 2002? Yeah. I'm not going to have you raise your hands if you're going to participate in 34, because you're a loser if you're not going to participate in 34. Everyone's going to participate in 34 in some way or form, we really hope. But the thrill of 2002 was amazing for me personally, and You know, whether it was speed skaters, Derek Parra and Apollo Ono winning medals, whether it was watching the snowboard men's half-pipe sweep led by Ross Powers, whether it was watching Sarah Hughes, she's on our table, be the surprise gold medalist in women's figure skating. And there's also something that, I'm gonna just give you a little Olympic 101 today. It's actually not, we are not hosting the Olympics. We are hosting the 2034 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. And so all of you, whenever you talk about 2034, use the word Paralympics as well, because that event is just as important and it's going to be just as awesome. So, yep. And then, you know, I was sitting out here in what was and will again be Olympic Stadium. I was at the north end of the stadium when the 9/11 flag came in. And for those of you that were here, you could hear a pin drop in that moment. I get verklempt every time I think about that, but it was one of those moments in the history of the world that was really, really special. And so, you know, you think about that, and I would just ask you all to think about a big question, which is, what is different in Utah because of the 2002 games? Just think about that while we're talking today. But to answer your question, and I am going to be quick, we're going to have 17 days of remarkable games. We will do that, and I'll talk more about that later. But I think the opportunity that's even more remarkable is what we're going to do over the next 9 years to ensure that these are more than just about the Olympic and Paralympic Games, but it's how does Utah affect humanity? And I mean that with every fiber of my being. How can we rise to the occasion and do that? And I would argue that the 2034 Games may be, if we do this right, may be the biggest opportunity in Utah's history. And there's a number of reasons for that. And, you know, in 2002, the state and leaders here did an amazing job building venues. We now have a legacy of those venues that are run by Colin and the Olympic Legacy Foundation. And, but this time, we have more runway, and we have an ability to engage the entire state in just a bigger and a different way. And I need your help to figure out exactly what that looks like. For sure, my team and I don't have all the answers to that. And this effort, this isn't about 2034 in its entirety, it's about now. And how do we think about those things now? And you know, we're going to have the chance to showcase our amazing natural resources, the Red Rock deserts, these beautiful snow-capped mountains. You know, I'm 56 years old. Every time I drive into Salt Lake City in the spring like this, it still takes my breath away, how beautiful this city is. So we have this amazing place here to showcase our place, our people, our family values, the youngest nation, most vibrant community in the country, the most volunteer-oriented state in the country. We speak 120 languages in our schools. This is a very different state than it was in 2002. So this is our opportunity. I would argue that it's you and your organization's opportunity. And we will showcase this place to billions of people. The question is, how do we want to show up in 2034? And that's what we're going to work on together. So thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, for those of you that are interested, write down this number, 801-303-1457, 303-1457. You can text to that number a question, and I've got an iPad up here, and I'll ask the questions if some of you want that. So 801-303-1457. Governor Leavitt, I was at an event with Brad about a week ago, and he delivered a speech, and it was just terrific, and he talked about how Utah's calling. Basically, you know, there's needs and there's opportunity, and Utah's calling you. So I want to go back again to pre-2002, and Utah was calling then as well. And the Envision Utah board has emphatically said that as we go into this journey, we got to think bold. We got to do big things. What did we do big prior to the games in '02 that can serve as a little bit of a model for Utah's calling? What did we get done?
That is a really good question. Let me sort it out. Let's just start with some. I mentioned that we needed a catalyst. At that point in time, there were some very serious, basic things we needed to do to make the state reach its potential. One was highways. We were facing 10 years of highway construction that no one wanted to face, either paying for it or living through it.
Because it went right through the center.
Right through the center.
Yeah.
And literally, we were talking about 10 years. And that was best case. Because the games were facing us, we had to innovate in a way that really rethought the way construction on highways was done. And we went from 10 years to doing it in 4.5, using a design-build process. Honestly, I don't think that would have occurred had we not faced the reality that we needed to solve this problem if we were going to host the world. We face a very similar issue today, again. Another thing, at that point in time, it's hard to even imagine this for many of you in this audience, but digitization was just beginning. And the idea that we were going to face the world without internet in every public building and throughout every neighborhood, it radically accelerated the process of digitizing this state and giving people the competencies. We face a very similar issue now as we transition from the technologies we've known to artificial intelligence. And the transformation and the infrastructure and the knowledge is going to have to be done. And facing the world without having accomplished that would be both a mistake and missed opportunity, and it would diminish our capacity in the future. We had other infrastructure things that needed to be done. I've often said about the Olympics that one of the most important things about the games is that we learned that we could compete and win in world competition. That this, in fact, is a world-class community, that we have now evolved into something that's frankly become quite vogue. It wasn't like that in the 1990s. Bringing companies here was a different experience than it is today. And I think the Olympics was the beginning point of a lot of things that have been built upon that foundation to take us into a position where we're able to compete. We have the confidence to compete. We know we can compete, and it's showing.
Yeah. All right, Brad, going a little off script here, but Governor Leavitt makes me think of this, but there were big risks that were taken. To do a design build, new thing, to go from 10 years to 4.5 years, ripping up your interstate, trying to do that. I can think of other big risks. We allocated sales tax money to build venues before we had the bid. What were we thinking? Anyway.
It was a different time politically, I think.
So a two-part question. What are the risks we're taking right now? Because I know you know this, we all know this, that it's in smart risk-taking that we make progress.
Yeah.
So what are the risks we're taking right now? And are these venues really ready to go? I mean, they'll be 32 years old by the time we host the games. Are they really still world class?
Yeah, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to invert it actually.
Okay.
And it is actually remarkable to me that the state built venues before we had the games.
Did y'all know that? We did that. We took sales tax money and built bobsled and luge runs.
Yeah.
But the people elected to do that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's a very important part.
You took it to the vote.
The people took a vote and said, we're willing to put up $58 million in advance on the hope we can get it there was a side bet. There was a side bet going on here, because if it didn't work out, we'd still be a winter sport capital.
Yeah.
But that says something about the heart of the people of this state and why it worked.
Well, and two, just to build on that, the heart of this community is still deeply rooted in being the winter sports capital of the world, and you see unprecedented public support for the games coming back here. And you see communities throughout the world that are struggling, even winter sports communities, struggling to be able to maintain that. And that speaks to a lot of things. It speaks to how well we ran the games in '02, but I also think, more importantly, it just speaks to the fact that the people of Utah understand the opportunity this presents in so many different ways. And just to quickly answer your second question, we don't need to build any new venues. Our venues are in good shape. My team is actually sitting over here at the table with the most important member of my team, which is my wife. And then somehow Doug Wright got at our table. But anyway, but they're managing these venues. And Jenny and I had a party at an event at our house in March, and our house is about 9 years old. We had to do a few things to get the place spruced up for that event. Some of our venues need that same TLC and to be spruced up, but they've been kept in good shape, and we've maintained them. Local programs for local athletes and our kids have thrived at these venues. And we host U.S. and international sports competitions at these venues all year long. And so the truth is the vision of '02, one of the biggest legacies of '02 was the Legacy Foundation and keeping these venues up and running. You see around the world Olympic venues that have been built, used, and then discarded. None of that's happened in Utah.
Yeah.
We've been much better stewards of that taxpayer money. And so we're going to continue to make sure our venues are at world-class standards. We'll invest a little bit in them over the next 9 years, but it's not a heavy lift. And to answer your question about risk, I think that there are some risks that we need to lean into and be willing to take. And it actually kind of harkens back to what I said earlier, which is how do we think about these games differently? How do we as a community figure out how to, in each community, become an Olympic community? How do we get leaders to lean into educating our kids in a different way and harnessing the power of the games and competition? And then by the time 2034 comes and we're sitting around this table in these rooms, or this room and these tables in 2040, we can look back and say, yeah, we did some things that no community's ever done to engage the community leading up to the games, and it paid off big time. This is not going to be an Olympic lead up about hard facilities. It's more about our community. So,
Thank you, Brad.
Can I comment on this?
Yeah, please.
I think an important component of this is to just expect the unexpected. And you can't define what it is, but we live in a very volatile world right now, and something's going to happen. Going back to look at the earlier games as a model, we went through some internal issues that we hadn't expected, and those were painful and difficult. Then we went through 9/11, and on the verge of the games, completely changed the nature of the world. We went through periods of global politics when the state of the U.S., of the United States, and the world changed, and people's perceptions. All of that will change, maybe supercharged in the next 7 years, and we're going to have to navigate in that context, and we just need to expect that. It's just part of having the Olympics, and you can succeed, and you will succeed, but it's part of what we have to expect.
Okay, I got a little bit of a lightning round here coming from our audience with some questions. It's interesting, Brad, a whole bunch of the questions concern how do people get involved? How do they volunteer? how do they help make our state a more welcoming place? But there's this yearning, I gather, from being in the community and then seeing from the questions that come in, that we care to be a part of this.
Yeah.
What are you doing in your role to create a bigger and rounder table for everybody to be involved?
Yeah. Well, officially I've been in my role about 90 days. But we're a small, scrappy team, and we're off to a really good start. I said this earlier, but I'll just repeat it. This is an opportunity for all 29 counties, not just those that have Olympic and Paralympic venues in them. And we're starting a listening tour. We're starting with our host venue communities, and then we'll expand that around the state. But here's, I think, maybe one of the key messages, right? The organizing committee that I lead is charged with executing the games and doing it flawlessly, or trying to. We absolutely want to help do what Governor Leavitt's talked about, which is use the games as a catalyst for our state to do big things that we haven't even maybe thought of yet. But here's the reality of the situation. If we're going to succeed at that, everyone in this room needs to help us figure out what that looks like. So I hope all of you leave here today with some sense of ownership, some sense of a little bit of maybe anxiety that we've got this big opportunity out there. There's a door that's going to be built for us. How do we open it and walk through it? We will have 25,000 volunteers during the games. They're, if I forgot to look, about 3,182 days away. Not that we're counting. And those volunteers will be ramped up, in 2033. We will look to those that want to be volunteers during the games, and we're going to pick those that have been volunteers between now and the games. Like, we want to use people that already have a commitment to making our community better. If you really want to get involved, we'll be hiring people, but not until probably a lot of people till after the games in LA. If you want to work for the games right now, LA is hiring a lot of people for 2028. We'd love to actually have some people go work for their games and come back here to work for us. So lots of different ways for people to engage. So
I can see questions here about safety and security, and Governor Leavitt, I can't help but think of you because I was with you the morning of 9/11 when that second plane hit the tower, and the protocol was that they whisked Governor Leavitt off to the Emergency Operations Center. The Secret Service was in town because it was so close to the games, and Governor Leavitt was briefed within an hour of the second plane hitting, and it was the first time I heard the term Osama bin Laden. Okay, so that's a heavy way to introduce the question, but the spotlight's so bright, and some really hard things can happen. And you can't really prepare for the unexpected, but maybe you can. We need your advice here.
The power of the games is that it is a symbol of all we hold dear about human beings and about all the aspirations that we have. So if you are a person looking, or in a group, looking for a means to make a real statement that will capture the attention of the world, the Olympics is, and we've seen this in Olympics past. We, of course, were concerned immediately that this was going to change the nature of the games. And there were people who said, well, we'll just need to cancel the games. That was not the right thing to do, not just because of Utah, but the world needed to demonstrate that it could come together and do it peacefully and successfully. One of my favorite Olympic moments was the second or third night of the games. I was at the Delta Center at an ice skating event, and the Zamboni was clearing the ice, so there was a bit of a break. And some music, I can't even remember what the music was, but it was really upbeat music, and everybody was happy. And I looked around, here are 21,000 people from literally 150 countries, all mixed in one place, and they are all dancing to the same music. I remember this guy having his baby up and dancing, and I thought, this This is amazing. This is 150 countries in this place dancing together without a hint of global tension. That's the power of the games, and it's the reason we have to be so cautious and careful in the way we prepare to preserve it. There's 100 stories about this, but I'll pause.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Brad, I'm going to give this one to you, and this is a tough one. This is the soft underbelly kind of. This person says, some people have hard feelings about the 2002 games because of the influx of growth that they brought to Utah. With Utah's already struggling housing market, water, air quality challenges, how are we as Utahns preparing for another influx, and how do we help sell the positive message of the 2034 games?
Yeah.
So it's this growth challenge.
Yeah.
And this idea that as we show our competencies and we welcome the world, we only become more attractive, and we've already had 33 of 35 years of net in-migration.
Yep.
Get ready for 33 of 35 more. What does that mean for our state?
So I look at it a little differently.
Okay.
In fact, just yesterday, I was in an Uber in St. George, getting ready to fly up here yesterday morning, and the Uber driver, I said, "Where are you from?" He's from Virginia. "How'd you get here?" And he said, "My wife, we got a map out, and she put her finger on St. George and said, that's where I want to move." They'd never been to St. George before. And he said, "Move your finger," to his wife. And she says, "No, I think that's where we're supposed to go." So they moved to St. George. And he said, "We will never leave. This place is amazing. We love everything about it." And the growth that is causing some of this consternation is going to happen, regardless of whether the games come again.
Yeah, it's a given.
It's a given. Mm-hmm. And the growth was going to happen whether or not the 2002 games occurred, because of who we are and what we are. The games were, using your word, a catalyst to help accelerate some of the things we needed to do to make quality of life here better. The games have that opportunity to do that again. So I just view it differently.
Yeah.
That let's use the games to help us make this state a remarkable place.
The quality of life in Utah would not be as good as it is had the games not come.
100%.
And the same will be true. I was sitting in this room on the closing ceremonies, this room. My seats were right there, I can see them. And I was told at the end of the games that we would have a spectacular fireworks show, and they suggested if you really want to see them well, because they're going to be up there, you want to move down to the south end of the stadium. So I took my kids by the hand. We went down, and we were pre-positioned down. We kind of walked down into the crowd where there were a couple of seats. The point I'm going to make here is this argument was made before. But I'm sitting there, and the fireworks are going, and the music is playing, and there's smoke in the air, and it was just fabulous. And there's a fellow sitting in front of me. And as the crescendo of this occurred, he stood up and said, "Utah, Utah, Utah."
Yeah.
He turned around and he saw me. And he was embarrassed by what he did. And then he said, "Governor, I was against this. And I was wrong." And that's really worth remembering.
Yeah.
There was a lot of opposition on the same basis, but they were wrong.
Yeah.
We won't have the quality of life we want without the games. We can have it, using the games as a catalyst to preserve it.
I cannot miss this opportunity to mention one other thing, or two other things. We do have some challenges in this state, and we're going to host the games in 2034. Let's take the Great Salt Lake.
That's a question, by the way, so have at it.
All right. I know a little bit about it, and I care deeply about it, and I think everyone in this room does. We have some important decisions to make each and every year between now and the games. The work that's been done around the Great Salt Lake the last 3 or 4 years is remarkable,
And we're only about 20% of the way through what I think needs to be a Herculean effort to ensure that the lake is healthy. I hope that we don't save the Great Salt Lake because of the games. That's not the right reason to save the lake. But if the fear of a little embarrassment or the fear of a lot of bad headlines, which would really hurt our business community, would hurt this community in a lot of different ways because the lake is in bad shape, if the fear of that is a little bit of a motivator for everybody in this room and policymakers to do the right thing, I'm okay with that. So air quality, the same thing. Our air's so much better than it was even in '02, but we want it to be even better in '34. So we need to keep working on these things, but yeah. And they're all things, yeah.
Very nice.
And by the way, it's the list of things Jason listed off that Envision Utah is focusing on.
Yeah, very good. Boy, I've got so many other, I'll fit one more thing in and then we'll kind of wrap it up here. Governor Leavitt, if I had to think about what happened before '02 that left a lasting sort of physical legacy for our state, it's the rebuild of I-15 in Salt Lake County. It's tracks, light rail. It's buying all the capacity to have front runner and different things. I mean, you did so much to give transit birth in our state. A lot of big facilities were built. Grand America Hotel didn't exist before the games. That's a big asset to this community. The rebuild of this stadium was part of the Olympic movement. So now I'll flip to Brad to say, what is the physical legacy that you see? Oh, and I should mention the facilities. We're all built for '02, right? So what's the physical legacy that you see this state doing? And maybe it doesn't have to be so much physical, but it's in the questions. A lot of people think this is the decade of energy. And if you're doing something for the state long term, that you're thinking about energy, and that's because of EVs and AI and just the demand on the electric grid. I'm not trying to lead you there, but what do you think, and not that you have to worry about it because you got to put on a great games, but what should the community be thinking about that this is a catalyst for? What are the big issues? Transportation was '02.
Yeah, it's not transportation. It's not building venues. I would say there's probably two categories, and I'm just totally responding with my gut to your question. But I think that there has to be a thoughtful strategy and a lot of investment of time and energy and heart around our youth. Because Governor talked about this. There will be no question after the 34 games that it's not a question of when Utah gets the games again. Is it going to be 2050 or is it going to be 2054, right? And we need to have another generation of youth that grew up in this state of sport that we're in here, that understand the power of games, that understand our community and have had a great experience growing up here. And I think that our youth and our education challenges are just going to get more and more complex. So I think that's a part of it. And it is interesting. I would have said there's two other things that are just water and energy. If we don't get water and energy right in this state from a policy standpoint over the next decade, it's going to have lasting repercussions here. And that generation of kids I just talked with you about is going to have a hard time.
Governor Leavitt, we have in the audience the leaders of the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation, the leaders of the, I want to get the name right, Salt Lake City, Utah 2034 Olympic and Paralympic Games leadership are here. Obviously, Brad leads that. We have mayors in the audience. We have legislators in the audience, lots of business community, nonprofit leaders. Give us some advice. From everything you've seen, because you were part of securing the bid, creating the right vision, executing on it, having great games, and then, because of Governor Leavitt's vision to make Utah a technology capital, it birthed Silicon Slopes. I mean, you were a part of leading all of that. Give us advice.
Well, we've already, I think, established one thing, and that is use it as a catalyst to build. and to do the things that need to be done in a timely way. I think I'll say, make another point, and that is, and Brad just made it really, it's not very often that an event comes along that can create a sense of belonging. Jason mentioned the things that were defining to his generation, that the Olympics was one of them. The other day I was cleaning out, we were repurposing a place, part of our house, and it forced me to make some decisions about stuff.
What to keep.
Oh, yeah. And I found my Olympic coat that I wore during the games. And I could not part with it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And I see a lot of people who still have their Olympic jacket or their Olympic hat, that have memories like Jason recited, that have bound them to this place. That is a very important economic and cultural and quality of life advantage. And so I would say, use it. And the third thing I would say, back to the catalyst, is, and part of this I would say is that it's not just the Olympic Committee. It's everybody doing things. Jackie, my wife, had a project to create an Olympic music program, and they went to the schools, and there were 15 or 18 Olympic songs. And I'll bet there are people in this audience who could cite some of those songs, who were in an Olympic program. Okay, let's take a chance. Anybody here in their elementary school do an Olympic program? Raise your hand. You've just forgotten.
I saw a bunch of hands over here, by the way.
Okay, well, that's good. They weren't over there. So find ways. And then look into your own area of expertise. One I'll mention, law enforcement. Before the Olympic Games, I don't know how many municipalities we have. I'll bet you know in Utah.
I don't know. Let's say 275.
Okay. We had 200 and X municipalities, and they all had their own police radio systems. And they couldn't talk to each other. And none of them wanted to talk to each other. They wanted control of their own system. And we couldn't go into the games that way. We had to find, and so we had to unify the communication systems. Now, that wasn't high on anybody's agenda, but it really needed to be done. And so my advice is, look into your own space and find the things that need to be done that don't require necessarily the legislature or the governor or the Olympic Committee to do it, and be a convener yourself. Use the Olympics as a force that allows skillful convening, and be the convener and participate in a collaborative way. There's so much energy to be found in these games that you can do projects as an organization, as an association of organizations, or as a community or a group of communities on your own. And that's what will make the Olympic Games profoundly successful, not just successful.
Can I just real quick?
Yeah, build off that.
My first listening tour stop was up in Weber County. I think it was just last week, is that right? Looking at my team. And we roll in there, and just for reference, Weber County in '02 had 2 venues. It had curling and alpine events at Snow Basin. Currently, they just have alpine events at Snow Basin. Curling has become such a big sport around the world that the facility in Ogden isn't big enough anymore. So we're moving it to Salt Lake, but to the Salt Palace. But I walk into that meeting in Ogden, and they hand me their plan. They've already been meeting as a community, as a county, as cities, as a business community. They've already met. They know what their plan is to use the catalyst of the games in '34 to make Weber County and Ogden a better place to live. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's great. Could you just add just a minute more on rural Utah, just because there were a lot of questions about that?
Yeah, great. Well, I couldn't be more sincere about the fact that we want to find a way, and we'll go through a listening tour to identify what these opportunities are, to have, whether you're in Kane County or in Park City, you can participate in the games. We're going to make tickets available. We're going to have volunteer opportunities. We'll engage kids in rural Utah schools.
Yeah,
all of these things will be part of our lead up to 34.
That's great. All right, so we've got 3.5 minutes left in our little session here, and I'm going to stick with you, Brad, and then end with Governor Leavitt. We just want you to share a heartwarming Olympic memory from 2002, or take it wherever you want to take it.
Oh, Natalie.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a hard thing.
Yeah.
I know. I always tell
I'm a
people
crier,
that the highlight of my professional career.
I've sometimes wondered if I'm somehow related to Larry Miller. You remember him? He would just cry all the time. The Jazz won tonight, and he's crying.
The Jazz won. We could use a little bit of that.
Yeah. Anyway,
so one of the things that I would encourage all of you to lean into is the torch relay. And it's funny, one of the things we do whenever we start events is we ask people, what's your favorite Olympic, Paralympic memory? And the torch relay comes up a lot. And anyway, I'm a baller, I guess, but it's very emotional for me.
Yeah.
My wife, Jenny, her mom was a big Olympic fan. And without giving you the whole story, Jenny decided, her mom had passed away, decided to write an essay about how her mom loved the games. And she was chosen by the Salt Lake Olympic Committee to be a torch relay. And Jenny ran the torch, my wife ran the torch. Wow. The morning of opening ceremonies, it was a blizzard that morning, I don't know if you all remember, up Orchard Boulevard in Bountiful, right before the torch went into Bountiful High Stadium for an event. And we have pictures, and it was just a really remarkable event. Wow. But that's a great memory. It's a great way to be engaged in the games, and it's something our family will never forget.
Wow, that's amazing. Governor Leavitt, bring us home. You have a lot of them, but a favorite memory from you too.
I do. I feel just as emotional about it as Brad does. As I walked in today, I noticed on each table there are Olympic pictures. Whether by providence or not, I don't know. On table 4, I don't know if the camera can see this, but it's a picture of a young skater named Sarah Hughes. Sarah Hughes, I think, was 16 years old when this was taken. On the last night of the figure skating, she was in 4th place. And there were 3 above her, and she skated out onto the ice, and I was sitting 3 rows up and watching all this. And the music began to play, and she began to skate, and it was just very clear. This is a person who is just one with the music. It was the most remarkable. Even to a novice, it was clear to me I was watching something very special. And I suspect it was because she was in 4th place and she didn't figure she had any place other than that this was a time to skate. When it stopped, she struck a pose. And it was just this memorable, I remember this moment. The next day, I was walking through the media center, and I sort of stumbled on to a press conference with Sarah Hughes. Now, Sarah Hughes, the day before this occurred, she had taken the SAT exam before she skated. This is where she was in life. And there's 300 reporters there, and this 16-year-old young woman. How do you feel? She said, well, first, I just need to tell you something, and it is this. I'm so grateful to have skated for the United States of America and represented my country and my family. And she said, And finally, I'll say this. Not everybody has a chance to skate the performance of their life. I did. I thought that's a very important statement, because very few communities get a chance to skate the performance of their life. And what Sarah Hughes said is, I had the opportunity, and I did. And we have the opportunity, and we will.
Great. Let's give our panelists a hand. Thank you.
Wow, that was so inspiring and so fun, and brought back a lot of memories, and I hope everyone here is feeling the inspiration and the opportunity that sits before us. Thank you all so much for being here today to show your support for Envision Utah and the Olympic Games. My name is Laura Hansen. I am Governor Cox's Senior Advisor for Long Range Planning and the State Planning Coordinator, and I happen to serve as a Vice Chair for Envision Utah. I have two kind of takeaways from our conversation this morning that really stuck with me. One was Governor Leavitt's comment about being a convener, and the opportunity that everyone in this room has in all of your individual circles to be a convener, to bring people together. And I think that really embodies what Envision Utah is all about, is being that convener, bringing people together. The other that Speaker Wilson mentioned is the opportunity to use the Olympic Games as a catalyst for what we want the future of Utah to be. This isn't just about 2034, this is about the future of Utah. We have this all the time leading up to it, and then the afterglow afterwards, and then it sounds like, you know, we will be a recurring host for the Games. That's the trajectory that the Games is headed on internationally, and what a huge opportunity that is for Utah. So I'm very excited about both of those opportunities. So the 2002 Games really showed us what was possible when we dream big, when we come together with purpose. The Utah that we built for 2002 came out of a really bold vision for the future, thoughtful planning, deliberate coordination. And the Utah that we want to create for 2034 will come from the same type of thing, which is why we wanted to come here together today. Envision Utah was created for moments just like this one, moments where we feel driven to do something big. So now and over the next coming years, Envision Utah will continue to bring us together to help us create the best version of Utah that we hope to have and show off to the world in 2034, but we need your help to be able to do that. And that's why in this morning I invite you to join our board and the visionary partners in this room in supporting the work of Envision Utah with a financial contribution to the organization. You'll find a QR code on the little three-sided table sign on your tables that will take you to a really quick and easy donation page. Envision Utah isn't your typical nonprofit. Supporting our work means believing in something bigger. It means trusting in the collective strength of people in this room. So when you support Envision Utah, you're supporting the idea that we can come together, take on tough challenges like housing affordability, water, education, and more. And you're supporting the processes that will help us all get our state ready for the 2034 Olympics. So before we close, I just want to take a minute to thank again all of our generous sponsors and partners who helped make this morning possible. Your support means the world to us. And thank you again so much for being here. Thanks for being part of what makes Envision Utah special and our entire state. And together we're stronger and will not only shine in 2034, but beyond. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.